What is going on, y'all? Robert Sykes, KetoSavage.com. Welcome to week 14 of the Reverse Diet Vlog series. So 14 weeks in, I started the week at a weight of 174.5 pounds. And let's just go ahead and jump right into the spreadsheet here because there's some interesting data that I want to walk y'all through. So as far as the weight goes, 174.4 at the start of the week, and then just kind of hanging out that 174, 175 range. I hit 173.6 on Saturday, then back up to 174.5 on Sunday. So my weight has been very stable, right around 174, 175 all week long. So can't really complain there. I had two higher intake days, once on Wednesday, and I hit about 5,300 calories there, and then once on Friday, hit about 4,800 calories there. The target for the week was right around 4,000, 4,100, somewhere in that ballpark. But the average with those two higher days was 4,273 calories. So quite a bit down from the week prior where I hit 4,600, basically 4,700 calories. The whole week I was pretty much consuming a brick in the morning after I trained with a Carnivore Bar. So getting, my two bar options there. And then in the evening I was having just a massive plate of 85-15 ground beef. I pretty much based my macro goals off of it being 40 ounces, but the way I did it is I just had 2 sleeves of ground beef. This is from a local rancher here, and there's a little bit of variability in the package weight, but most of them range around 39 ounces total to about, there's one day I had 45 ounces of beef, but rather than sectioning it off, I just wanted to make it simple and pretty much hit that average by simply eating 2 sleeves of the ground beef. And quick little caveat on the ground beef, I've been just searing both sides. Take out of the package, put it on a cast iron skillet, sear both sides. The inside is totally raw, and for whatever reason, I've really been liking that. I like the taste, I like the texture, I feel like my body absorbs nutrition very well. I haven't had any issues with eating that raw meat, and because I know where the meat came from, I'm not really worried about it having any foodborne illnesses, parasites, anything like that, because I know the process that took place with that meat. Wouldn't probably recommend that if you're getting your meat from Walmart or something like that. But if you know the source, you know the quality, then you can confidently eat undercooked meat without likelihood of any issues. So that's what I've been doing from a meal standpoint, and have pretty much kept things super consistent. I wasn't really doing any crazy refeeds or anything this week because we're on phase 7 and the refeeds have more or less phased out. I have the 2 higher intake days, but what I have found is that by averaging the 4,200 calorie mark, my weight holding pretty stable, I feel very confident that my rough maintenance intake with my current activity load is right around 4,000 calories. I'm a little bit high of that now at the 4,200, 4,300 calorie intake, but I feel pretty confident that my maintenance intake at this stage is right around 4,000 calories. I like the way I look and feel at 175 pounds. I don't really want to go beyond that. Honestly, I like the way I look more at 170 pounds, but I like the way I feel better at 175 pounds. I'm less food focused, I'm more satiated, and that's probably where I'm going to kind of hang out for, going into the building phase here before too long. So I'm going to try and target that 4,000 calorie mark for the foreseeable future. But keeping things super simple, not eating hyper-palatable foods, and getting ample fats and proteins via the brick, the Carnivore Bar, and then just simply the ground beef has worked really, really well for me. So that's pretty much what we have going from a macro standpoint there. When it comes to the pictures, let's dive into that real quick here. So these were all taken on Monday, the 19th. That's what my composition is looking like. Definitely putting on some fluff. I'm getting some thickness back. I don't have near the definition. I still have this separation in my quads, so I'm liking that. Still have the feathering in the teardrop, so I feel good about that. I haven't really had any issues with fluid retention. One thing that I have done, which I don't think most competitors likely do, is I'm continuing to measure out my salt and potassium this far post-show, which I don't need to do, but honestly, I really like being consistent with my electrolytes because I consistently feel amazing. I don't have any excessive fluid retention, and everything's just firing properly. I figured out what ratio and what quantity worked well for me in my prep, and I've just continued that throughout the reverse. So no water retention in the ankles, anything like that. Continuing to go through these pictures here, you can just tell that I've thickened up a little bit. My midsection is a little bit more blocky. Still have a lot of vascularity in my arms. That's typically one of my leanest body parts. Still have quite a bit of separation between the hamstrings here. Still got some glute separation there. Still have the bicep vein. I probably won't lose that bicep vein, but the vascularity and the definition in my shoulder caps is starting to fade. Still got some striations in the chest, so I feel good about that. My cheeks are looking much more full, so face has filled out considerably. And then when we go to some of these back shots here, I'm just obviously not as tight in the hamstrings, but again, still not holding any fluid in the calves, so I feel good about that. My body typically puts body fat on most readily around the lower back and midsection, so I've got more body fat in the back area there. Don't have that super defined Christmas tree, but all in all, I still feel really good about the conditioning. I just want to hold it steady here. There's no need for me to put on additional body fat. Well, maybe a little bit more body fat. That probably would be a benefit hormonally if I put on a little bit more body fat. Probably not to exceed 10%. Certainly not necessary to exceed 12% body fat in time here going forward. But as far as body fat is concerned, I did do a caliper test on Sunday. So on Sunday, I weighed 174.5, and my caliper test came in at 6.11%. I don't think I'm that lean. Again, I'm probably more towards the 8% if I had to guess. I did an Inbody last Monday as well. Again, I'm filming this the next Monday. According to the Inbody, on Monday the 19th, I was 6.8%. So those, again, 6%, I'm probably 8%. If I had to guess, I'd say I'm probably 8%. And again, I don't think there's any benefit to me exceeding 12%. Like a lot of people are of the opinion that you got to eat big to get big. You got to put on a bunch of body fat. And yes, if you have a lot more weight on your frame, you can have different leverage points and likely push a little bit more weight in the gym. But there is a point of diminishing returns with that. And I don't honestly think there's going to be any benefit for me exceeding 12% body fat. 15, 16% is certainly on the high end of that spectrum. I would like to stay on the leaner end. I don't want to be single-digit body fat because that would likely hinder my metabolism and hormones going into a building phase. But I'm feeling pretty good with where things are sitting currently. And again, I just want to highlight the fact that as I've gotten 14 weeks post-show now, I've embraced the body fat that I've gained. I'm definitely not as lean as I was during competition season, obviously, but I feel really good. These past couple weeks I've been ravenous and have had some higher intake days for sure. But I'm starting to feel now that things are leveling off quite a bit. I had those 2 higher intake days this week, week 14, but now kind of on the tail end of that, averaging 4,000, 4,100, 4,200 calories a day. I feel really good at that. I'm not fixated on food. I'm not focused on food. I'm not obsessing about my next meal. I've got enough energy to do things outside of the training, the posing, and just the competition style things. Like I've got a lot of energy to do things like on the homestead, working out outside, just doing things, being more active. I don't feel depleted anymore. And you certainly don't want to feel depleted indefinitely. Like there's a chapter in a prep where that's just going to be the case, but you don't want to sustain that indefinitely. And I feel like I have passed that stage. I'm no longer feeling depleted, so I feel really good about that. I also got some updated measurements on Sunday as well. Let me run through those with you real quick. So I have a neck circumference now of 14.75 inches, shoulders at 48, chest of 41.5, biceps unflexed 14.5, flexed 16, which is a half inch up from the last time I did measurements, so gained a half inch on my arms. Belly button 33.5, that also went up quite a bit too. Hips 38, thighs 24, calves 15.25. So those are the measurements. I'm kind of looking at that, comparing it to weeks prior in measurements, and you certainly don't want to see anything gaining too fast, but everything is growing at a very gradual, consistent rate, so I feel good about all of that. And honestly, my gym performance has been next level as of late. I am hitting the same weights that I was hitting prior to the prep starting. So I feel really good about that. Probably haven't gotten quite up to the volume that I was doing prior to the prep. For instance, I hit 4 plates on squats the other day, which is pretty much as heavy as I went prior to the prep, but I'm not getting that for quite as many reps as I was prior to the prep. So I am on the cusp of returning to baseline from a strength standpoint. In certain lifts, I think I've actually gone above the weight that I was hitting prior to the prep, but not quite 100% there relative to what I was pushing before the prep started. But I feel really good about that. The recovery has been great. Sleep has been great. All of my blood markers, as I shared in the last video, have all improved drastically. I'm going to get an updated DEXA scan here in the coming weeks, probably within the next 2 or 3 weeks, so I can see what my DEXA body fat composition is showing and lean mass tissue. I expect a pretty significant increase in my lean mass tissue from what it was prior, and then we would just go from there and adjust accordingly. I am going to do, kind of giving y'all some forecasting here, 14 weeks in to the reverse diet thus far. These past 2 weeks have been phase 7, so baseline and beyond. This next week, I'm going to stick with the same meals, basically doing Keto Brick and ground lamb in the evening, probably 40 ounces as well. But then what I would like to do, and this is kind of up for debate here, but what I would like to do for the and beyond phase is, rather than sticking to a rigid meal that I'm eating every single day, which I honestly enjoy and don't mind at all, I'm probably going to have Crystal and I just start cooking things more with a little bit more variety, still targeting a set macro intake, but just having more variance in the food types, so that would probably do better from an illustration purpose to show y'all how you can incorporate different foods like most people would when they're not in a prep, and then see what my weight and composition are doing as a result of that. So again, I'll still be targeting a set macro intake, not to blow out my intake by unnecessary means, but include more variety so that we can see how things respond there, and then I'll be able to illustrate to that for y'all as well. So that is a wrap on week 14. Feeling really great thus far. Super excited about how the body's progressing, and I'm excited to keep sharing the journey with y'all. So appreciate y'all tuning in. We'll talk to you next time.